both have been in the movement, whatever you think about them. Jesse Jackson has his whatever, not a Jesse Jackson fan per se, but he was out there. So they gave him that respect, and they also embraced Farrakhan. So I thought that was a great thing.
Okay, so we are now finally discussing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm Gabriel Hutchinson.
I'm Raven Addison.
I'm Kyla Batch. I'm Crystal.
So we want to first discuss the major historical events that took place in 1963. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy. There was also the Alcatraz Penitentiary, which closed in that year. Hurricane Flora, which even though it wasn't in America, it did have like an effect overseas. The Cold War related events are the Mariner 2 mission that ended in that year. There was the first woman in space in that year. The final Project Mercury mission in that year as well, and partial nuclear test ban treaty in that year as well.
All right, so personal background of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was born on a Tuesday, January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. He was the first son and the second child born into the family. His father was Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Sr., and his mother's name was Alberta Williams. He grew up in a neighborhood in Atlanta on Auburn Street, and Auburn was considered, also known as Sweet Auburn, and basically it was kind of like the neighborhoods, as you would say, where they had like black businesses and stuff like that. They were basically like, not really like your cream of the crop, but basically those that African Americans who were flourishing within the neighborhood. And so Sweet Auburn Street was like one of those, I guess, neighborhoods that basically acknowledge and recognize those African Americans who had their own businesses and things of that nature. He came from parents who were very well educated. They had college education. His father was a minister, and also his maternal grandfather was also a minister too as well. Let's see. So, like I said, even though he did grow up in somewhat of like a well, I guess, nation and secure family lifestyle, he also did experience some prejudices early on in his life. So I would give an example. Say at the age of 6 years old, he experienced one of his white playmates. Their parents had basically told their son that they could not play with Dr. Martin Luther King at the time, just because at that time that's when schools were being integrated. And so they felt, well, not integrated, segregated. And so basically it was just, well, now that, you know, you're going to this school and now their son is going to that school, they didn't want their son to even play with Martin at that time. Also, when he was 15, he experienced, I guess, a fatal death within his family. So his grandmother had passed away with a fatal heart attack, and basically that had really played like a role like in his life, his grandmother. And basically at the age of, so it wasn't 15, it was 14. So basically he was on his way to a parade that he was not consented to go, he wasn't given permission to go. And basically when he heard this news, he was basically at that parade. And so he almost took his life. So he almost literally went to, I believe, the second floor window of like some random building in Atlanta, and that's when he almost took his life in there. At the age of 15, he was enrolled into Morehouse College. Basically, he was enrolled into a program that was for African American men who, it was like a special like wartime program. It was intended to like boost the enrollment for and many like promising high school students like King. So those who had, I guess, like the persona, invested, like I said, the family having a college education and stuff like that. So they wanted young men like King. Before beginning college, he spent the summer in Connecticut. One of his, I think it was in the north. And basically, he was very like fascinated during that summer. But also, it was a summer where he realized that he was really upset with like the segregation and things of that nature. So like, I remember he wrote a letter to like his parents all throughout the summer while in Connecticut, and he was just like very fascinated saying how, you know, they're able to go to church with the white people and things of that nature. And knowing, me listening to that, I was just like, well, that's very interesting just because the church in the South, or church with black people, was more like a safe haven. So I was just like, you know, that's really interesting how he kind of saw that on like early on at the age of 15. But also that's where he had, I guess, that started that burning fire and passion of the hatred with segregation. But at Morehouse, he was originally studying medicine and law, but then his senior year, he changed it to ministry. He was basically influenced by the president of Morehouse at that time, which his name was Benjamin Mays. Benjamin Mays, he was a pastor too as well, minister, but basically he was also not really accusing African Americans at that time, but also in a sense of blaming them as far as not taking that initiative, like going into the community saying that you're focused in on the hereafter, but not in the here and the now. So that was kind of like one thing that Dr. Martin Luther King at that time was, that's when he was like introduced and exposed to early on, like the age of 15. So after he graduated from Morehouse in 1948, he spent 3 years at Crozer Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania. There he became acquainted with Gandhi's philosophy, which was of nonviolence. And so Gandhi.
Oh,
So that's
Gandhi.
where, you know,
I said Gandhi.
oh, no, Gandhi. No, so basically, when he went to seminary school, that's basically where he got the philosophy of, okay, nonviolence is, I guess, the answer. Let's see. Also,
What was Gandhi's philosophy about?
it was mainly peace, like with everything does not, well, not everything, but let's just say like in regards to Northwest, like violence is not really like the answer. Granted, it may be a quick approach to getting things done and going after for what I guess people need at the time, but at the end of the day, nonviolence is, like you said, Kristen, is peaceful, especially amongst all boards, among ethnicities and backgrounds and stuff like that. So that was like a personal background of Dr. Martin Luther King.
His major thoughts and ideas, they mainly come from his book that his first book that he wrote, which was Stride Toward Freedom. And he discussed the 6 principles of nonviolence. Principle 1 is that nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. Number 2 is that nonviolence seeks to win friendship and understanding. Number 3, nonviolence seeks to defeat injustice, not people, which is, I'm glad that he added that last part, because a lot of naysayers will try to say, well, he's just against people, he's against white people or any other race. Number 4 is that nonviolence holds that suffering can educate and transform, which is very interesting because it kind of sounds a little bit like a complexity when you think about it. It sounds almost like it's negating itself, but then when you think about it, going through troublesome experiences, especially racism at that time, that's like a different perspective. I think that a lot of black people would just see it as, just oppression and, things to, kind of like bring the black race down. But his approach is basically saying that us being brought down is a way for us to bring ourselves back up in our own way. Number 5 is that nonviolence chooses love instead of hate, which goes back to Gandhi's approach of peace. And number 6 is that nonviolence believes that the universe is on the side of justice, which means that basically justice should be a universal thing, and that's what the effort is to go for in the sources of the Bible.
How many minutes we got?
About 10.
9?
Yeah.
Okay, some of his strengths and weaknesses. Dr. King was a very good speaker, like he was known for giving really good speeches. I feel like a lot of people also feel like he was a natural born leader, and he was very determined, and he still taught the way he believed in, meaning that he wasn't gonna back down from the people who were against him, like Malcolm X and stuff like that. He fought for everything that he stood for. He was confident some of his weaknesses was self-doubt and he was afraid. Dr. King knew that he was in this position where it could easily be like, it could easily get shot down by. But yeah, when you're in that high position, I feel like your weakness is always gonna be fear and like self-doubt, because it's always gonna be somebody like telling you like, you can't do this, or this is not what I believe in, so why do you do this?
And also I think another one of those fears was like, will like the African American community be able to see like his vision? And will people be able to see that, say, 20, 30 years from then on? You know, I think that was like one big fear that I saw too as well. And then also like the strength with, I guess, like a popular, I guess, audience, given from the fact of his philosophy with nonviolence, he also had the support like back at home, being a minister, stuff like that. Also his family support, especially like I said, his father and his maternal grandfather were ministers too as well. So he also had those support systems back at home.
And I also read something that said that this fear sometimes drove him to the point where he didn't even want to like do his protests, he didn't want to give his speeches, but because he had his family and stuff backing him up, he felt comfortable enough to continue on fighting for it.
And that's the point, because so people don't know the weight of ministry, the weight of being a leader of people. And I think it's important to know that fear might be there, but I wouldn't like to lead with the word fear. Fear is there, but you still act in spite of the fear. People are gonna have those emotional feelings, but he definitely did succumb to it, but it did kind of overcome it at one time. And I think he said, when it really got heavy on him, he said he went to his table, he said it's a speech, one of his speeches or books, and he prayed, and so that's what gave him confidence. I think that's when he came to the, okay, that's when he, after that, he gave that speech. You know, I may not, so he wasn't just saying that, I may not see it, because he had already seen what was going to happen to him, but upon, you feel the emotion of fear, but he still pressed forward. I don't think he knew it was gonna be on that day, but it happened.
So y'all playing with him.
In Memphis, Tennessee. A lot of people visited because we had the 50th year thing. This year. Okay, so, and I haven't been back to the museum, but my church headquarters is there, and it's kind of in that same vicinity. But I've been there, but I do plan to go back to that museum at some point. I'm sorry, I couldn't do it at that time. Something came up, I wasn't able to do it. But he did make a speech that night at the Mason Temple, Church of God in Christ, where he gave that last speech. And so, but that weight was there. So, yes, the fear was there, but he did succumb. That's when I said I would also like to know. I mean, think about it, because people love their loved ones. These women that had to stand with that, and then you got children to know that you'll be a widow, and your children would not have a father. And so I think that's the reason the daughter said what she did. You know, my dad has been killed for this, and now, you know, these black folk won't even go out to vote, or don't even know, some people don't even know, believe it or not, they know King's name. Because I've talked to some, but they don't really know who he is, and and even the depth of what he did, so. What is that?
It doesn't make sense.
It's honestly,
It's true.
And it's crazy because like Dr. King is like the go-to.
Right,
You know, exactly. If you don't know anybody, you know him. If you don't know school, like you gonna know him.
Because some teachers aren't really trying to teach their students the
I mean, I
actual
understand that
facts.
they don't teach them like
Mine-
the sojourner truths and things. but
Yeah.
Malcolm and Martin are like staples in
exactly.
like history.
Exactly, that's what I get out all the
Our
time.
teachers, I feel like they didn't really teach Malcolm X either. And I went to like a primarily black school for a long time.
Yeah.
We had white teachers. So
So
we being taught by these white people. So it's just like you don't teach, or you don't teach the Malcolm X's, not the violence.
I'll give you a better one. Like, same way you went to a predominantly black school, me too as well, but, and I was also taught by predominantly white teachers, but my history teacher was African American. It was the only time we ever studied, like, say, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, it was only within, like, history. It was only focused on, like, world history, U.S. history, but not saying, like, as far as, like, segregation and integration goes. It was just more so, like, okay, what had happened in America and stuff like that. So I kind of find that interesting too, that you said that too as well, that even our own, say, African-American teachers don't take the time within their curriculum and their schedules, within like the school year to actually like inform and teach.
I think they're taught what they have to teach though. I think that's part of the problem, like.
That they have
Teachers
no-
are-
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad I went to school when I went to school, because when I was in, elementary school, middle school, high school, especially in high school, my history teacher, what drove me to loving history and African American history, it was a white lady, my ninth grade, history teacher. And every month, she focused on a different African American person, and she would decorate the room during, like, in Women's Month, it was focused on African American women. And then she would also throw in like the white women that were in the movement with them, but it was always focused on Black women. So during like, Indian Heritage Month, she would focus on the Black people, like the Buffalo Soldiers that were coming in through that time. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that it's sad, like it saddens me when I hear this, and I've been hearing it for 3 years. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how are you not getting this?
And some people know the name, but don't know the context, they're like, Martin Luther King, yeah, la-di-da, yeah, that kind of thing too. So, but again, you have to know the person, the context, and put it into what this means. And again, we're gonna have that conversation too, because a lot of that has to start within the Black community, within the home or the community, so that you will know those things, so. And I repeat, no, we're not the Jewish people, but you can extrapolate from other people. I've seen them, and I'm sure that's not all of them, but they can recite you their history. So it keeps that sense of history and self
Right.
perpetuated through the generations. So you don't want that gap to exist. So, all right, we're gonna pick up, what is it? Letter. We're gonna finish this, and we wanna talk about his letter from the Birmingham jail.